All right, guys, wanted to put together a video that I've been meaning to do for a while. This video will help me to be able to send to people that message me and ask me, hey, I want to get into traditional bow hunting or traditional archery. What bow should I buy? So hopefully that this helps me. I can just send it to people, but maybe it will help you too if you're watching this. But this is my opinion, what I recommend. I've gotten over a dozen people started with the same setup, and I think it is a great budget option that gets you started, and you're not wasting money, but you're not also investing in something that you may or may not like. You know, it's not a huge investment, but you're still getting quality. And the bow that I'm gonna recommend, if you told me, hey, you have to use that specific bow to hunt everything in North America that is whitetail size or hog size or mule deer, whatever it is, with appropriate poundage, I would even hunt elk with it. It's a quality bow. Yes, I pay for customs and things that I can have a relationship with the bowyers and that are aesthetically really pretty and that are better quality shooting. But this bow is a great bow to get into it, and even if you want to hunt with it for years, it won't let you down. It won't disappoint you. So that being said, it is the Samick Sage model. Now, a few people make the Sage, they make the Galaxy, but this is a Samick Sage. You can get it from Three Rivers Archery. They sell it in a kit. Sometimes I recommend the kit, sometimes I don't. We'll talk about that here in a minute. This model, I have two or three of these. This one I have some rubber string finger protectors. The only reason I have that is because I use this bow to let my youth group guys shoot, and that way we don't have to keep up with tabs or gloves. But it is just a 3-piece recurve, and I recommend most guys starting in traditional to get a 45-pound bow. Every deer hog I've ever killed has been with a 45-pound bow. It is plenty. I have friends that have killed elk with 45 pounds. I would prefer to see somebody hunting with 50, 52 pounds or so in a heavier arrow setup, but 45 pounds is a great way to get started. It's just enough weight to where you're going to shoot well, you're going to be able to build a good arrow tune, but also not heavy enough to where you're building bad habits. But a 45-pound Samick Sage, I think they come in 62 inches, recurve, 140 bucks, 120 bucks, you can't beat it. The kit's going to come with the bow, which is obviously a takedown, very nice. And then if you buy the kit, you're also going to get to choose from your rest, your finger protection, a couple other upgrades, and arrows. And if you buy the kit, they'll tell you in the comments that you could tell them to set up the bow for you to either shoot split finger or 3 under. On that topic, I typically start guys out shooting 3 under. A guy will find more accuracy and success learning to aim. Now there's guys that shoot instinctive that are way better shots, and that's awesome. I'm not an instinctive shooter. I aim, I use the tip of my arrow, and I typically will start guys out that way so they can be consistent quicker. So I tell, when I get people to buy it, have Three Rivers set it 3 under. The reason I say 3 under is because it gets that arrow closer to your eye, which means your gap will be smaller, meaning you're going to hold that arrow anywhere from 14 to 18 inches below where you want to hit. If you go to split finger, that might be 20, 22, 24 inches. That's a long way to hold underneath, especially under an animal. Again, this is my opinion. If you're getting started, I would advise you start with 3 under and learn the gapping method. There's plenty of videos I can send you to teach that. That's not what this video is about. They'll set up the string, they'll set up the knock points, which is where the arrow sits on the string. Typically for 3 under, that's 3/4 of an inch or so. When you first get the bow, don't freak out about tuning unless you're just getting really weird arrow flight. It's kicking sideways, it's doing odd stuff. Let Three Rivers set it up and you should get pretty good arrow flight. Now if you're 6'2", or you're very short and you're drawing really short draw length, we're gonna have to discuss. Send me a message, we'll talk about it. But if you're your average American height, 5'9" to 5'10", 5'11", somewhere in there, a 45-pound bow that's measured 45 pounds at 28 inches, which is what all bows are measured at, 28 inches. Three Rivers will get you pretty dialed in to where you'll have a good enough tune right off the bat. If you select the right spine, we're going to go over that to where you'll be pretty close. Now, if you are a taller guy, let's say you're 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", and you're going to draw to 29, 30 inches, every inch over 28-inch draw is going to be roughly 2 to 3 pounds. So if I have a guy that's drawing 29 or 30, I'm not going to tell him to buy a 45-pound bow, because when he draws it back, he's going to be shooting 50, 51 pounds. I'm going to tell him to go buy a 40-pound bow. That way when he overdraws it and it adds on 3 to 5 pounds, he's still in a sweet spot where I think he can handle the bow, work up his strength, and develop good form. But if you're on a compound and you're shooting 28, 27 inches, just order 45 pounds at 28. You'll be fine. You'll be somewhere between 44 and 47 pounds, and you'll do great. So specify your weight. Tell them you want to shoot off the shelf, in my opinion. I like it. I think it's better for tuning, make more adjustments. They'll set it up with a bare hair rest and a side plate. You'll be good to go on that. And I'll do a link in here, like a picture of the order form to help you. But set up side plate, 3 under, have them set your brass knocks. I like brass knocks. Some guys hate them. When you start off, let them set brass knocks so they're not moving. You can switch to adjustable tie-on knocks later on once you get familiar with the process, but go with brass knocks. They'll get those set up for you. And the kit's going to come with a stringer. Use a stringer because you want to make sure this brace height stays at where it's recommended. It's somewhere between 7.5 and 8 inches. What you're going to do is you're going to try 7.5 and say, okay, that was kind of quiet, had a little bit of a twang. Then you string it and bring it up to 7 3/4 by twisting the string. And okay, that got a little quieter. And then you take it to 8 inches, and maybe 8 inches is real loud. Okay, 7 3/4 was the best. Write it down. I'll write it on the bow, and know your brace height needs to be 7 3/4. But I can help you with all that. We'll get that figured out. But so far, $120 bow, you're buying the kit. You're going to tell them to set it for 3 under. Brass knocks, they'll set that. You want the side plate off the shelf. And if you're roughly 28, 27 inch draw, just order a 45-pound bow. If you're longer than that, go down in your weight. If you're shorter than that, you might even go up to 50. I have a buddy that draws 25. He's a short guy. I had him order the 50-pounder, and when he draws it, because he's a shorter draw, less pull, he's at 45 pounds. So, Samick Sage, in my opinion, budget, price, this is your best option. There is some options that if you say, hey, I know I'm going to love this, I've shot before, I want something a little bit prettier, I want a longbow, I would like to invest a little bit more money, I would recommend Three Rivers Mountain Mesa series. I'll put a picture up there for y'all. I just set up a buddy with it. It's beautiful. He set it up right, and that bow is going to probably be great for him for 10 years unless he wants something specific, a custom or something. I recommend starting off with Samick Sage though, for if you're just on a budget and you don't know how much you're gonna like the hobby. In the kit, if you order the setup kit, they're gonna give you an option for arrows. These are Fleetwood arrows, 600 spine. There's an option to not choose to get these arrows. I'm not saying they're bad arrows. I'm not crazy about them. They're light, grains per inch. They're like 5. It's going to be hard to get a good heavy, good hitting, solid arrow out of this. If you need to stay on a budget and save $100, go ahead and order. I would recommend getting their 500 spine. 500's a good in between, because if you're stiff, you can go to a 200 grain head. If you're weak on your arrows, you can keep it at 125. If you need to stay under $400 or so, get their Fleetwood arrows. But I would say be ready to upgrade so you can improve your accuracy and your arrow build. What I typically tell people to do is click the option, no arrows included. And then add to your cart gold chip traditionals. These are a much heavier arrow, 8.6 grains per inch. I typically have people cut them to 30 inches. That's a good balance point to where you can get a good tune. 30-inch 500 spine out of a 45-pound bow, give or take plus or minus inches of draw. It's rare I don't get this tuned pretty well. If you are gonna draw more, you know, say you're 6'1", 6'2", and you're gonna have to drop down to a 400 spine, you can get a 200 grain insert. But I tell guys, typically starting off 500 spine, cut to 30 with a standard insert. And I tell guys to order 2 packs of field tips. Order a 125 grain and a 200 grain. That way you can switch head weights, theoretically stiffening or weakening this arrow to dial in your tune. Most guys that are drawing 45 pounds at about 28 are going to shoot a 500 with a standard insert and a 200 spine at 30 inches. Some guys, if they're drawing less, maybe they're drawing 43 because they're a little shorter, are going to have to swap to the 125 grain head. You're still going to end up somewhere between a 450 and 530 grain arrow. I really like to have guys at the 500 mark, 530. But if you told me I was shooting a 43, 44 pound bow and I had a 450 grain arrow and my arrow flight was good, I'd take it deer hunting. I don't, that's not unethical. I've killed plenty of deer. I have a buddy that's a better archer than me. He's a decorated archer and he's killed a lot of animals, and he typically shoots about a 470 grain arrow and has no issues. So you've selected the 45 pound bow. You've selected Three Rivers to set it up 3 under. You've off the shelf. If you had to save money, you've chosen the arrows, 30 inches, 500 spine. If you have the extra $75, $85, don't select those arrows. Get a 500 spine, Gold Trip Traditional, cut it 30, but order yourself 125 grain tips or 200 grain tips. Leave the standard insert in it. That will get you pretty close on your tune. Your brace height's going to be somewhere between 7.5 and 8. The kit comes with a stringer, so you can play with that to see what's the best sound, tunes the best. Again, this bow is not going to be just perfectly tuned shooting darts like I like to shoot through paper. But it's going to be close enough to get you dialed in. As you develop your form, develop your habits, how you shoot, everything's going to change. You'll be close enough to where you can get consistent results, and then we can start working on fine-tuning your setup. Another thing, it's going to give you an option between a tab and a glove. I always start guys with gloves. Why do you start with gloves? I believe tabs are better releasing. Like, I believe a string comes off a bit better. However, if you order a glove, you can shoot 3 under or split with the same glove. Let's say you order a bow and you say 3 under is not for me, right? And you have a tab that's for 3 under. Now you have to go buy a split tab. If you choose the glove, you can shoot whatever you want. Now, I would recommend later on as you get set up switching to a tab so you get a cleaner release. But if you choose a glove, you can shoot 3 under, or you can just split your fingers and shoot split. Tabs are specific to either 3 or split. So choose the glove. It will give you measurements on how to do it. It's a decent glove, and it will get you started. But I recommend guys start with a glove so you can figure out your shooting style. If you like 3 under, go get a good quality 3 under tab. I can recommend who to use on that. If you decide you like split and want to shoot instinctive, I can tell you a good split tab to go by. You say quiver. I like a on the bow quiver. When I'm hunting, I want my arrows there. I want less things to carry. I don't want a back quiver. Back quivers are cool and everything. I know guys that hunt with it. That's awesome if that's what you want to use. I personally like a Selway quiver if I'm going to invest and make a good quality setup. This is a Selway slide-on. In my opinion, this is the best quiver in the market. It's clean, and also because it slides onto the limb, it reduces noise. Now, there is other great quivers. One of my good friends, Eric at Great Northern, builds an awesome quiver. I'd shoot his quiver any day. Thunderhorn makes a good quiver. Creekwalker makes a good quiver. This is what I like because it's clean. It deadens things down. You can get them custom. I like a 5 arrow. But these are $120, $130. I typically don't tell guys to buy these right off the bat to save a little bit of money. But this is where I recommend guys going once they invest. The quiver option for this that I would buy on the side, if you want a on bow quiver, is what I have on this bow. This is a classic quickie quiver. You can get these on eBay for 40 bucks. There's a bracket and the quiver slides onto it. You can put some tape on there, quiet it down, but it's a good quality quiver. It's 30, 40 bucks, and it will come with the bracket. You just mount the bracket on these 2 bolts here, and this quiver slides on for $35. You have a great quality quiver. I've used one for years, and it's a little bit more money, but it's still good quality and on-bow quiver. If you don't want to do that, just carry your arrows in a back quiver or a hip quiver. I think there's really been no one that I've set up that stuck with it and not upgraded their quiver. And I've had them use the Selways. I've had them use the Great Northerns. They all like it. If you have the money to swing, go ahead and order a good slide-on bow quiver, but you don't have to. Remember, this is budget setup, and I don't like using the word budget because typically on budget, you're sacrificing on quality. This isn't the quality of a $1,000 Primal Tech, but it's good enough quality, acceptable quality, where you can hunt with that and learn to love traditional archery and not be handicapped by your setup. So again, let's review. Samick Sage, $120 by itself, or you can order the Three Rivers kit. If you order the quick kit, 45 at 28, the best place to start in my opinion. If you're a little bit taller, you can go to a lighter weight, because when you're drawing back, you'll draw more weight. If you're shorter, you can order more weight. So at a shorter draw, you're not losing as much. I might have said that backwards, but you get it. Order the kit, tell them to set it up 3 under is my advice. If you're just dead set, you want to shoot instinctive, tell them to set it up for split. Get the glove. Glove allows you to go back and forth between split and 3 under. Have them set it up on the shelf. Shelf is the best way to start in my opinion. The kit will come with a stringer. If not, you need to order a stringer. They're $15. And you'll figure out your brace height somewhere between 7.5 and 8. Just try it at each increment. All you do is unstring it, twist up the string, theoretically making the string smaller, therefore your brace height's longer. And figure out between 7.5, 7 3/4, and 8, what is the quietest. At that point in time, you're done tuning your brace height. Write it down. That's what you always wanted at. Choose the glove, and then on the arrows, as mentioned, if you're just super tight budget, you can go with the arrows that come with the kit, or you can save a little bit of money. Say I don't want these arrows, and order the gold tip traditionals. This arrow right here, if you spend a little bit more money and get this, you're fully set up to hunt. I wouldn't be crazy about hunting with these arrows. They just are lightweight to get your weight up, and obviously they're a budget arrow. Spend an extra 70, 80 bucks and upgrade to these gold tip traditional 500 spines, cut to 30, standard insert, but you're going to order 125 grain filled tips and 200 grain filled tips, and that's going to be enough of a way to tune to get you dialed in pretty good. Preferably the more weight you have, up to a point, the better the penetration on the arrow will be, the better the tune is. But I wouldn't try to shoot a 300 grain head just to say I'm shooting a heavier arrow if it doesn't tune right. So order those. Glove, we talked about that. If you just want to have an on-bow quiver but you need to save money, $30, $35 on eBay, Quickie quiver, spelled with a K, and put it on there. You can put a little tape on the back of it to quieten it down because it'll have a little bit of a rattle. Again, it's a budget product, a little bit of a rattle, but it's fine. So just to review one more time, Samick Sage, 45 pounds at 28. If you're a little bit taller and going to be drawing further back, maybe drop down to 45-pound bow so it stacks. If you're a little bit shorter and you're drawing under 28, order maybe a 50-pound and that will drop in at 45. Set up 3 under, off the shelf, get your brace height between 7.5 and 8, figure out what is quietest, and then if you can, upgrade to the gold tip traditional 500s with a standard insert, 125 grain tips, and a 200 pack so you can tune it. Cut to 30 inches, you'll be good to go. You got to stay under that budget. You can get the arrows that come with it. I just don't think they're the best quality. Shoot a glove and you'll be good to go. Maybe years down the road you want to upgrade to a custom. If you fall in love with traditional archery, go ahead. But this bow right here, for the money, is great quality and will serve you good for plenty of years, however long you want to shoot it. Real quick, because I know a couple guys are going to ask me, and again, I'm not the end-all be-all on shooting. There's plenty of guys that are better shots, but I wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of instruction for your first few shots, so you at least kind of get the feel for it and can shoot. Watch a bunch of other videos of guys that are better than me, and it'll help you. Clay Hayes is a good one. Plenty of them. Taking your first shot, Three Rivers is gonna have it set up for you. You've already determined your brace height. You're gonna take your arrow, you're gonna knock it. Most guys shoot with a feather out. Let me use these other arrows because they'll let me explain better. So the one feather that's a different color is called your cock feather. Most guys are gonna shoot feather out. I shoot feather in, that's a long story why. But you're gonna knock it, you're good to go. If you're 3 under, right underneath the brass knocks, 3 under, you go to the crease in your finger. Don't try to put it on the tips. That crease right there is where you wanna be. Crease in there, pick out your spot, draw back. I shoot index finger to the corner of my mouth. It's called an anchor point. That's a good place to start. Everyone's face is different. Some guys up here, some guys down here. You can work through all that and there's better videos to watch. But draw back, hit anchor, focus in, pull through your shot. You want a sweeping motion back. You don't want to pluck the string. You don't want to collapse. Your hand should pull through like this. Again, it's not an instruction video on how to shoot, but that's how you get your first few shots off. Watch the push, watch those guys. They can help you a lot more. Same for split. Pick your spot, draw, corner of the mouth. Pull through your shot. You'll figure it out. Over the next 3 months to a year, your form, your setup, everything's gonna change. You're gonna figure out what you like. This is just how to get you started. Real quick on gap, just to explain it. Tip of your arrow, if you're aiming, is gonna almost act like a sight. It's gonna act like a sight is what it's gonna be. So you reference the tip of your arrow to where you wanna hit. What you do is you shoot holding your arrow on the spot you wanna hit and you see how high you hit. If you hit 15 inches high, you know the tip of your arrow's gotta be 15 inches below where you wanna hit. There's ways to tinker that to make it shorter, but we won't get into that. Let me see if I can stand behind the camera and show you what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna simulate drawing here. When I say reference the tip of your arrow, let's say you draw back and you wanna hit the top of that bow limb right there. So I wanna aim right there. Well, you're not gonna be able to draw back and put that tip of that arrow right there. It's gonna go way high. You're gonna end up aiming low. Average is 15 to 20 inches. I know that limb is 15, 16 inches, so if I wanted to hit the top of that bow limb, I'd draw back, and instead of going right there, I'd lower down and aim 15 inches below where I wanna hit, right? Might be 18 for you, might be 20, you gotta figure out what your gap is. But in your peripheral, you're watching the tip of this arrow as a sight. You're gonna line up left and right. You don't wanna draw back and be way like that. Get your eye over that arrow, use it as a reference, and pull through your shot. Another thing I know I'm gonna get asked is, can I store my bow strung? Yes and no. I shoot my bow pretty much every day. I leave my bow strung in an air-conditioned house. Don't leave them in a garage strung, and definitely don't travel in your car, hot car, with it strung. String and unstring if you're not in a climate-controlled area. If you can hang it in your house, you can leave it strung, run a nail into the wall, and hang it just like that flat. You don't want it twisting or turning. If you do it that way, you're fine in a climate-controlled area. Other than that, unstring it every time. And if you know you're not gonna be shooting your bow for a month at a time, 2 months, and even if it's at climate control, go ahead and unstring it. When you unstring it, you can hang it the same way, but you won't have tension on the limbs. So again, yes, you can leave it strung in a climate control area, hung by a singular nail where it's not twisting the limbs, or if you're gonna not shoot it for a couple months at a time, unstring it, hang it the same way. Biggest no-no is don't leave it strung in a garage, and don't leave it strung driving in a car. When it's deer season and it's 40 degrees outside, sure, but if it's over 80 degrees, 75 degrees, and that car is 90 degrees inside, take the time to unstring it. It will save your limbs, and it's worth it to do that. One other thing I'll show y'all too is how to string a bow. And by that, I'm just gonna put a picture up of the stringer that I'd recommend, and it's got a little instruction with it, and it makes it very simple. Use a bow stringer. Definitely don't do the step through process. Guys have done it for years and been fine, but you got to be careful. If you have a longbow, you can do a push-pull, that's fine. If you have a recurve, use a stringer. Even on my longbows, I use a stringer every time. One other tip I give y'all, because if you're watching this video, you're probably new to traditional. I got a little helper because it's my turn to babysit. But learn to pick a spot. When I first started traditional hunting, I thought the term pick a spot was just for instinctive archers, but I had to realize even in gap shooting, aiming, you have to pick a spot to initiate your aim off of. I would just get on an animal, get on a target, and I would set my gap based off the whole outline of the animal or target. And I'm not ashamed to admit that my first over a dozen shots on game, I missed. It took me over a dozen shots to take my first animal. And it wasn't until I learned to start picking a spot, meaning that deer's under you at 15 yards, to pick out an individual clump of hair, an individual joint on them to reference to set your gap off of. If you can learn to do that, not just, am I boring you? If you can learn to do that and not just get on the deer and try to set your gap, you'll save yourself a lot of heartache. Pick an individual spot and pull through your shot and keep at it. Guys, it's going to be hard. You might start off really easy, do good, get an animal, do great on the tournament, but at some point in time, you're going to hit a slump and you're going to have to develop the right form and process to be successful. Keep at it. It took me years to find some success, so to say, but I enjoyed the process and it's worth it because there's nothing more fun than traditional bow hunting, in my opinion, in traditional archery. Just keep at it.